Hello again, word lovers, and welcome to the penultimate instalment in what has been a long but still cursory look into the various sources of languages which ended up being the bud on the branch of the Indo-European tree known as English, possibly the world's most important language as things stand with the dawn of the internet, and possibly, with some adjustments, the dominant language for many years to come. Series 2 will follow some of the lines which we've sketched out in Series 1 and try to find some even more vague and esoteric connections, but that's for later. In the last video, I'll be presenting some of my favourite etymologies which seem to have slipped through the net. And in this penultimate video, I'd like to look at another of the many phenomena that we haven't touched on, which is the idea of opposites. In our last instalment about Scottish English, we saw Sassenach meaning Saxon. Well, why would that mean the old enemy, as in the English? I can only assume that it's a very, very old word for us, as of course the dominant class, since the 11th century invasion, has traditionally been the Normans, who we see as French, but as the name suggests, were Norse men from Scandinavian territories, bringing their language with them. So by tradition the Saxon would be the poor, would be Robin Hood, and the Norman would be the rich, the enemy, the aristocracy, bad King John. A fine example of how this affected our vocabulary is in the oft-told tale of the meat words being Norman and the animal words being Saxon, which you can see even in modern-day German and French. Cow would be Kuh in German, Bœuf in French. Calf is the Germanic, and veal from veau is the French Romance language, the Norman. The word poultry for certain birds comes from poulet, the French word for chicken. Chiffre is Germanic. Mouton is Norman, therefore mutton is the name of the meat, and so on. Another strange pair is words whose opposite didn't exist, and so when the concept began, the old preceding concept needed a word to describe it. Analog clocks were never called analog clocks until digital clocks arrived. Similarly, a cis male meant nothing to anybody previous to the 1970s or 80s. Now it's taken to mean a non-trans male. This etymology is taken from Latin via the naming of the two sides of the Alps, the Transalpine and the Cisalpine, in Gaul in its day. Most cultures recognize the natural tracing of a circle to follow the path of the sun, but I haven't investigated on how extended the idea of clockwise is. The case is that it was the normal way to go around a circle, maybe plough a field, maybe do a circular tour, and then them old witches decided to do it against the natural order. Widdershins, originally from Scotland as well, but the word itself, Widersinnes, meaning against the way, comes from German. Widersinnen, to go against. This word wider connected with the word with, sinnen, to go, connected with the English word send, all in all giving us one of my favourite words in English. Which brings me to the last distinction I wanted to make, and this is a swift investigation of the words left and right. The reason we refer to left wing and right wing in politics is due to the 1789 French National Assembly. As the speaker looked out over the assembly, the nobility were on his right, and the commoners and ordinary clergy on his left. But let's finish this instalment by digging down into those words themselves. Right and left. Old English recht, meaning straight. Straight associated with good, good associated with correct, thence the law, then rights as in human rights. And this reasoning, I think, is reflected in all the languages that I know. The right hand standing for the good, the left hand for the bad. The French word gauche meant clumsy, and then left, and then came into English to revert to meaning clumsy, in a sense, awkward, or sometimes we even say maladroit, bad on the right. Certainly not ambidextrous, which would be too right, or skillful hands. And the same thread we find in German, Scandinavian languages, Romance languages. Tout droit would be straight ahead in French, todo recto in Spanish, all right in French, all straight in Spanish. A lot of Slavic languages have the connection between straight ahead and right. So without many exceptions, that's the story of the words for left and right. Of course, the opposite of dexter was sinister, and that has bad connotations also. There is the possible exception of left field, which in modern English usage means avant-garde, free-thinking, unexpected, but the normal usage would be closer to the Russian vchodit nalieva, which means to cheat on one's wife.